And welcome back to another Sportsnaut interview. And today we are joined by Ryan Dunleavy, who covers the NFL for the New York Post. And the topic of our conversation today is the New York Giants. They're struggling right now. Let's first start with the embarrassing loss last week to the Eagles. They saw their former running back, Saquon Barkley, run all over them. We saw Daniel Jones get benched in the game. We saw one of their cornerbacks having his effort questioned by his coaches. It seems like this team and Brian Daboll have hit rock bottom. What's your take on that?
I never believed there's such a thing as rock bottom. I'll never say that. They could lose the next 7 in a row. I mean, you never know. I've seen them go 3-13, 4-12, 5-11, 6-10. I think there was another 5-11 in there. I mean, I would have told you they've hit rock bottom like 5 times in the last 7 years, and they always find a way to go deeper. So no, I can't say it's at rock bottom. I just have no idea what's coming because, I've seen players walk out of practice, quit on the team, coaches fired midseason. We're not at that point yet.
Do you think it's possible though? I mean, 10 games to play.
Sure.
This is not the first time we've been down this road with Daboll and Joe Shane. Is it possible that John Mara has seen enough? I know his comments in the Hard Knocks show over the summer about Saquon, and if they lose him to the Eagles, he's going to be sick to his stomach, lose sleep at night. Well, he just saw Saquon run all over his team. Is it possible that at some point we could see a midseason coaching change here in New York?
I'd be surprised if it's midseason. That's not usually the Giants' way, going back decades. They did it in 2017. And I think John Mara regrets that, doing that to Ben McAdoo. I think he feels like he pulled the trigger on him too fast. So I would be surprised if you were talking about a mid-season change. I don't even really know what those do. Like the Jets did it, and like they didn't get anything out of it. So I don't know. I kind of feel like you make your bed, you lie in it. Now it's different if the players are quitting on the coach or whatever, but if you're talking about trying to jumpstart a season, the Giants aren't a very good team, and no other firing the coach isn't going to make them a good team.
Right. I agree with you there. Now, Daniel Jones, he's a big topic this week of the discussion because he was benched in the game. After the game, Daboll said, he's our starter. We're just trying to, get something going, spark some offense here. And he even confirmed those comments again this week, saying Jones would start this week against the Steelers. But, is it possible that we're kind of seeing the beginning of the end? I mean, if he struggles again,
I think you're in the middle of the end.
In the middle, yeah, correct. This has been building for quite some time, but is it possible we could see him benched again at some point?
Yeah, absolutely. It could be this week. Yeah, you're not in the beginning of the end. The beginning of the end was the start of the season. You're now in the middle of the end. So, he could be benched at any point now. I don't know if that, how much of a spark were you going to get out of Drew Lock down 28-3? I think that was more of a message, more of a throw a bone to the fans, more of a let's see what Drew can do, like all those kind of things. That was more of a step towards the future, even though Drew Lock is not the future. But there's also an injury guarantee in Daniel Jones's contract, and he's injury prone, so you can't leave him out there in meaningless games. If he gets hurt, he could add another $20 million to your cap next year. So yeah, I think if the Giants keep losing, then they're probably going to make a quarterback change. The problem is every time the Giants feel hopeless, like they were 0-2 and they beat the Browns before you knew the Browns were terrible, when that was like, oh, they beat the Browns, that's a pretty good win. And then like they were 1-3 and you're like, okay, that was just a fluke. And then they went out to Seattle and beat Seattle without Malik Neighbors. And you're like, oh, okay, maybe they have a season here. So like every time you think they're dead, they beat somebody they shouldn't beat. They're underdogs in 23 straight games. So like they're never favored. So like, could they beat the Steelers like 10-7? I guess it's possible.
An emotional roller coaster, I'm sure, for Giants fans. Now, you covered Giants and Jets football for the Post. What is the biggest issue with the offense? I mean, we know Daniel Jones has struggled, but is it his inability to do the things in Brian Daboll's offense? I mean, I know he wanted to push the ball downfield a little bit more this season. Is it Daboll's play calling? Is it just a lack of personnel, or is it a combination of all these things that seem to be holding back this offense?
Yeah, I think it's probably a combination of all those things. I mean, look, Daniel Jones is who he is. Giants should have recognized that years ago. They didn't. He's not a terrible, he's so polarizing. He's not the worst quarterback in the NFL. He's not the worst starter. He's not incapable of playing. He's capable of having really good games. He just doesn't do it frequently enough. He's like the 25th best quarterback in the NFL. That's what he's. On a bad team, he could be a starter. On a good team, he could be a backup. Like, that's who he is. He can give you good games. He just can't have prolonged good stretches. So he, makes, he rushes decisions. He holds the ball too long. Now the offensive line is injured. He doesn't trust the protection without Andrew Thomas. We've seen that for years on end. So now he's going to panic with Josh Azudu at left tackle. And quite frankly, as you mentioned, Saquon Barkley earlier, they lost Barkley, they lost Darren Waller. Yeah, they brought in Malik Neighbors. They just don't have enough players. They don't have enough good players. It's really that simple. Like, I know coaching can make a difference. It can take a good team to a great team, but coaching can't make a bad team a good team, and they don't have enough good players, especially on offense.
Correct. And sometimes your coaching is always only as good as your talent in some cases. Now, one more thing on Daniel Jones. What does the future hold for him? I mean, you mentioned the injury stipulation in the contract, or the injury guarantee in the contract, and you know a lot more about the contract than I do. What options do the Giants have here with him at season's end? Are they going to continue to roll with him, or is this it for him? Because we know, based on what we saw in Hard Knocks, that they flirted with the idea of drafting a quarterback. Ultimately, it didn't work out. But what are the options here? What do you expect to see happen with Jones at season's end?
Yeah, he'll be gone. So unless they turn the season around and somehow like make a playoff push, or like end up drafting like 18th or something like that, he'll be gone. I mean, they'll have a top 10 caliber draft pick. They'll try to move up, get the quarterback they want, or if it's not a good quarterback class, as some people say, maybe they go shopping for a whole stopgap kind of guy. Also depends who the GM is. Is Joe Shane going to get to make that decision? Is Brian Daboll going to make that decision, or is it a new regime making that decision? All that's yet to be played out, but Daniel Jones won't be the Giants quarterback again if the Giants struggle, if the Giants are headed where we all think they're headed, towards a 5-6 win season. It's a $22 million salary cap hit to cut him, assuming he's healthy, and so they'll do that, and they'll move on.
Oh, that's a big hit there, $20 million. You mentioned the injury to left tackle Andrew Thomas, and I know the offensive line had some struggles last week. You mentioned the player who filled in for him. Is there going to be any shakeup on the offensive line going forward with that position particularly?
Yet to be seen. Josh Azudu is a left tackle. It's kind of inexplicable that he's the left tackle. He was the backup left tackle last year, couldn't do it. Lost his confidence, played poorly, got injured, and they went through a whole offseason and decided he was going to be the backup left tackle again. They basically said he'll be better with better coaching when they changed the offensive line coach. That hasn't happened. So I would guess he starts again this week against the Steelers. I guess they would tell you he got better as the game went on last week. So let's see if that was just some rust or whatever in his first start. It's hard to believe that would be the case. I think he's just, not very good. And so the other option is putting Jermaine Illuminora, the starting right tackle, in at left tackle, and then putting in a different right tackle, whether it be Hubbard, a veteran they just picked up off the Broncos practice squad, or Evan Neal, the first round pick who never plays. But this isn't the week to do that. You want to leave Illuminora at right tackle this week because J.J. Watt lines up exclusively over the right tackle. So it's actually more important against the Steelers to have a good right tackle than left tackle. So I would think if Azudu struggles again, that change could be coming here down the road.
Absolutely. Well, tough times for Giants fans. We'll see if they can give them a little bit of hope on Monday Night Football against the Pittsburgh Steelers road game in Pittsburgh, currently 6.5-point underdogs right now. Ryan Dunleavy, New York Post, covers NFL, does a great job for them. And Ryan, we thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks for having me.